So how's everybody doing? My name is Dominic Couzens, and this is Matt Breitenbach of the Breitenbach Advisory Team. We're sitting here with Rory Golod, the president of the Northeast California and Hawaii regions at Compass. Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Taking part in this series, and we want to, pick your brain as an industry leader. We're talking about disruption, and what do you think are the top disruptors in the space in 2022?
Yeah, well, it's funny when people talk about disruption. Oftentimes you hear it in terms of companies looking to disrupt a space, and I always felt that was sort of odd because why would you want to disrupt for disrupting's sake? Right? Like ultimately what you really want to do is improve and make things better. Because inherently no one wants like just pure disruption. Oftentimes though, I think disruption comes from clients, customers, people being underserved. And I think in our industry, you've had sort of two sides of the equation. You've had the agent side and the consumer client side. Right. On the agent side, for the last number of decades, you've had a traditional brokerage model where agents have been the ones doing all the work, creating all the business, providing all the value, and the brokerages sort of stood back and just sort of said, we're not really going to do much, it's on you, but we're here, we're cheering you on, and we hope you do a good job. And didn't really create much value. If you think about it, all the real value that agents bring to their clients comes from them. Agents are the ones who are innovating around social media and marketing. Agents are the ones who are outsourcing third-party software, trying to build technology into their workflow. Agents are the ones coming up with building teams. Agents are the ones who are front-loading the cost of staging, doing all these things. And so I think the disruption that you're starting to see is agents are saying, well, wait a sec, what am I getting from my brokerage? If I'm the one doing all of that, what are you providing me? I'm paying a portion of my income to you. What value am I getting for that? And I think that you're starting to see that happen at scale. And I think the trends that are impacting people in general and business over the last 2 years via COVID, which is causing a lot of people to sort of reset their expectations and what they are expecting of themselves and the companies and the people they work with, I think you're starting to see agents say that same thing. So that's one thing that's happening. That's putting a lot of pressure on brokerages to create value and justify that existence.
Because the brokerage just seems like it's become a platform that agents plug into or teams plug into, and we talk about the growth of the team, and then it's like the new era of the team with the brokerage as a platform, so it's kind of shifting into this.
That's exactly right. And I think the challenge that the brokerage industry faces right now is you sort of have two models. You've got a traditional brokerage model that provides very little in terms of day-to-day value, but charges a premium to the agent, and really tries to justify that value by things like brand and office space. But outside of that, you're the brand. And as we've seen in the last 2 years, office space is not exactly like something that it puts like a tremendous amount of premium on a value for agent teams and individuals.
Yeah, it's amazing, Roy. I mean, what drew me when I came to Compass was like, it was really like when you guys were recruiting me, and it seems like just yesterday we just talked about how fast these years are going by in this world. But you guys really cared. You guys were like, no, you're great as an agent. Who are you? Let's make your brand. You guys built me out of businessman, where my other brokerage was like, I'm going to make you this, and we're going to make you great because we're great. And you're like, no, you're great. Like Compass is like, dude, you're agent, you're great. Let's see what your brand is. What do you feel? How do you service your clients? Let's help you empower you.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that comes from insecurity, because if you don't have any tangible value to provide, then you lean into the few things that you do have. So if you're a well-known, traditional brokerage, and you lean into your brand because you're like, this is all we have. But at the end of the day, most of your clients don't even know what brokerage you work at. They know you. Now, the brand of the brokerage needs to be strong. It needs to create confidence. It needs to be something that clients look upon fondly, but it's not the determining factor, right? We know that's why there's agents who are individuals and work at boutiques and all different types of companies. They're very successful. But you've got this sort of traditional model over here. Then you have the discount brokerage model, which is we will charge you virtually nothing, but we're going to give you virtually nothing. The challenge with that is that Right now, your job is getting more complicated by the day. The expectations of your clients are getting more significant. They're not asking you to do less. Yeah. They're asking you to do more. Yeah. The challenges you're facing every day are getting more complex. The needs of software and systems and tools are becoming even greater. And so if the company that you're at is a discount brokerage and their model is, we charge you nothing, but we give you nothing, well, then you're sort of stuck because now you're becoming a professional outsourcer and you're having to, again, figure everything out.
Yeah.
And those two models, neither of those create value.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You can't discount your way to value. Yep. You can't sell your way to value. You just have to create enough value to where an agent says, this is the company that I could grow my business at the fastest with the least amount of hassle, and I could be the most successful. Right. And that's what we have focused on, basically carving out that lane.
That lane, yeah.
Now let me just press you a little further from like the discount brokerage as a disruptor, and I'm going to take it on the national scale because you have such a broad audience. Do you see that being a disruptor both from the Northeast as it is in California? Is it
It's definitely a lot more prominent in California. California in general is more of all the markets that we're in is one of those where they're innovating ahead of other markets. In fact, and even being from the Northeast, I have to call us all out. We tend to be the laggards when it comes to innovation.
Especially the Hamptons. It's like we're an old school market, and just being in the Hamptons is like it's.
Look, a lot of that. You look at the Hamptons in New York City and Brooklyn, right? Three of the most important real estate markets in the world. None of which have an MLS. None of which have active free-flowing data among the agents, right? So those are some of the reasons as to why you don't see that level of development and why you don't see that level of pace in terms of improvement and being entrepreneurial versus California. California was one of the first areas where real estate coaching really grew out of. It was one of the first areas you saw digital marketing become. A lot of the companies actually that build real estate software are based in California. So there's a lot you see there where they're innovating at a faster rate. Now, on the discount model side, there have been discount brokerages around for a long time, but I think over the last 2 years, because of COVID and what technology can provide now, agents are thinking, well, actually, maybe this is the right thing for me. The problem with the discount model, though, is that it will continue to occupy parts of the space, and I think there's room for all different models because our industry is so big.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the best agents in the industry are going to naturally gravitate towards the companies that help create the most value for them. Yeah. If they're creating all that value on themselves, then actually they're not really an agent at that point. They're doing something different. And we all know the highest return on investment for an agent's time is with clients. Yeah. Right? So totally. The problem with the discount model is it actually takes time away from clients. Yeah. And it forces you to be the jack of all trades. Yeah. And if you look at other industries, that model doesn't work, right? Other advisory-based industries, yes. Right? So if you think about agents, ultimate advisors of transactions, you look at bankers, right? Bankers, an investment banker at Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley would never go to a firm that paid them more money but gave them less resources. Yeah, they would never go to a firm that said, we're going to pay you more, but we're going to take away your research analysts, we're going to take away your technology platform, we're going to take away the people that help you prepare pitch books and deals and all the things that we provide, but you can keep more of the money you make. They'd be like, that makes no sense. I'm going to keep a smaller piece of a smaller pie. Yeah. Right? So I think you'll continue to see that sort of oscillate.
Yeah, what do you predict? What do you predict? What do you predict? Yeah, what do you predict in this
space?
Well,
it might sound self-serving to predict that Compass continues to navigate a successful path forward. But
I agree. We agree with you. We're with you.
So here's why I believe that. Right. Yeah. As I just said, like both models are challenged because they're not creating value, and ultimately people are going to pay for value. If you're creating value, you're going to attract the best agents, and the best agents are going to bring their clients. When the best agents come to that company, they are bringing with it not just their business, but they're bringing with it their ideas, their input, their feedback. They then attract other great agents who want to be a part of that. That momentum, that flywheel, is very hard to stop. And I think what Compass has proven is that you can create value for agents via technology, via referrals and community and culture and human support and programs and services and all these different things. And that is actually going faster and faster. If you think about our company now, The technology platform we have today is vastly different than it was 2 years ago, even more vastly different than it was 4 years ago. What's it going to look like in 2 months? What's it going to look like in 2 years? It's only going to get better and better at providing value to agents. So if you keep providing value, more agents want to come to the company. I see a world over the next couple of years where Compass continues to be the definitive place for agents who are serious about running and growing their business. There will still be other models. There will still be traditional brokerages. There will still be discount brokerages. But the vast majority of the best agents in the country will be at Compass. And it'll be a place where their clients are appreciative of them being there.
Now, one question we like to ask in part of this series, it's 2:30 in the morning, you pop out of bed, is there something that keeps you up at night as it relates to, the industry, either presently or in the future?
Yeah, well, when I wake up at 2:30 in the morning, it's usually because my daughter is like...
You're on the night shift. I was on the night shift too.
Crying. And because my wife does so much, I'm like, all right, I have to at least help.
That's what I used to do.
I have to do something. I have to provide some value, right, in the context of value. So, here's what I would say. I would say, one, there is a whole part of our business that's focused on actually trying to discount, displace, and devalue agents, largely driven by aggregators, companies that are going directly to the consumer. And their business model is to replace us. Their business model is to say, we want to go to the client directly. Their business model is to say, you don't need an agent. We can do everything. There are companies out there that, as we know, are going to people and iBuy and just saying, we'll buy your house from you straight up. Those models and those businesses don't keep me up at night. I actually think, if anything, they reinforce the value of an agent, because when you're the person who works with an iBuyer and you sell your house at a 10% discount to the list, and then the iBuyer turns around and flips it for 10% more than the list, so now you have a 20% delta, you're feeling like, wow, I really missed out on something. Someone almost took advantage of me financially, right? Sure. When you're a consumer and you go on to an aggregator and you go on and you see a listing and you don't get to see the actual listing agent, there's someone else who shows up and you call them and they don't know anything about the listing. You're like, wait a sec, this is a terrible experience. So I think those things actually reinforce the value of the agent. But those companies are well capitalized. They have great product and engineering talent. They have a lot of very smart people, and they're working hard at doing that. On the flip side of that, you've got Compass. And I think we're the entity that's actually on the other side of that equation that's saying, wait a sec, we see a future where you haven't displaced and discounted the agent. We see a future where you've enhanced the agent's providing more value and growing their business. So that tug of war is something that I'm constantly thinking about. I think needs to be on all agents' minds.
I agree.
There's also, for the first time in a long time, regulatory things that are now popping up. There are now these lawsuits where people are suing for back to buyer commissions. There's the NAR suit. And all of these sort of like strike the same sort of tone, which is, I think, people having a real lack of understanding of how our industry works. Right? There are people that are attempting to file class action lawsuits to say, hey, wait a sec, I was overcharged by my real estate agent, or I deserve money back for this transaction, or buyer agents shouldn't be compensated. But I don't think any of those people are thinking about the value that agents provide. Have they ever been in a transaction that almost fell apart that a buyer's agent saved them? Have they ever been in a situation where a buyer's agent successfully negotiated them the best price? Have they ever been in a situation where the buyer's agent was their advocate and represented them? I mean, like people need to ask these questions of themselves. And as you know, because you do this every day, if you've been in any of those situations, you are the first person to stand up and say, oh my goodness, the value of an agent is so pronounced.
You're right.
And so I think what's happening is that potentially could develop a lot of momentum, because it's very easy to look at our profession and say, well, they're making too much money, or they don't deserve this, or they don't deserve that. But until you've actually been in that experience, you don't know that. No different than if we said if there was an attorney and they charged $2,000 an hour, and we're like, oh my goodness, that's ludicrous. How could you do that? Like, we should ban that. Well, if you're being sued and you're either dealing with something that was going to create financial ruin or business ruin for you, and you hired an attorney, you paid them $2,000 an hour, and they helped you navigate that, you would have probably paid 10 times that. Right? Because they created a successful outcome for you. So we need to help educate people on actually the value that agents provide.
And that's big on our team. We're big into experience and just trying to communicate that experience and creating this luxury experience, and how do we communicate that and how do we handle that with our clients? Because our part in my career, that's like a big thing for me now. It's not about advertising and marketing, which is great, but it's like really making sure that they understand the next steps, they understand all these things.
It's so important. One other I think about that I see as a big opportunity.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Yeah, so this is less disruption, more opportunity, but disruption towards the way we might traditionally think about things is the office, right? And whenever you talk about the physical office and the space in a real estate brokerage, everyone always is like, here's it, and it's almost like people's guard goes up immediately. And I think it's really important to separate two things. There's culture and community, and there's an office. Culture and community, to me, is the most important thing in a company. We saw over the last 2 years how difficult it was to operate when you didn't have that in-person physical communication.
We talk about that so much on our
right?
team.
Imagine us doing this right now over Zoom. We'd pull it off and be fine, but it wouldn't be the same.
It's something about the personal relationship. We talk about that on our team. Like, and Dom and I have grown really close because he's actually one guy on our team that really, comes out to me all the time. And we live, a little bit spread out in the Hamptons. He comes in all the time, and I think building that rapport every day too, and then trying to run a team too, as trying to run a company like you guys do, but like trying to get people in person, it does make a big difference.
It makes a huge difference,
especially with a small team.
And you've got a need among people to actually create that community and culture now, especially with where the world is today. With as important as mental health is, as people feeling connected, what we went through over the last 2 years, I think, has really reinforced for people that like this stuff really matters. And that's why when people are talking about, well, I don't want to come back into the office, I'm like, be careful what you wish for, because you might not even realize the impact of that. It's almost like when you, I remember I broke my arm when I was in college, and so I didn't work out or go to the gym or anything for months. And I got into sort of this mode of like, oh, I'm fine, like I don't really need to work out, I'm all good. And then you go to the gym, and that first time back in the gym, after 5 minutes, like you can't breathe.
You're sore for 3 days.
You're sore for 3 days, you're so tired, and you didn't realize how like actually your mind and your body adjusted to this new normal that wasn't a better new normal for you.
Yeah.
And I think we've sort of all got to this like, oh, I want to be in my pajamas, I want to be home. And that's great in doses. But that's not, as human beings, that's not actually what we want. What we want is connectivity and community. So you've got that over here, but you also have these physical office spaces, which I'm in our offices all the time, and I would say the vast majority of people aren't in there every day like they used to be. And by the way, they probably shouldn't, because it was inefficient. It didn't necessarily make sense for everyone to show up at the same time, the same days, working that way. But how do you now sort of calibrate to that? And I think the opportunity is that the office in a brokerage of the future is a space that's a lot more focused on community, on culture, on connectivity, and less so on, I go to my desk, I sit down at my desk, and I work. And I think if we can identify the way to create that, I think that could be a new paradigm shift for our whole industry.
It seems to be shifting that way. We could probably do a whole nother talk on just what you just brought up, and that's why you're amazing. And I'm seeing it in the Hamptons, right? Because we have these people that love being out, but you see like the growth of like the remote workspace, or these different spaces, or these like clubs, or these more open spaces, right? These more community workspaces, as you're talking about. And the Hamptons, like I was with these guys the other day looking for space in the Hamptons because there's a need out there right now, because there's a lot of people in and out of New York, back out to the Hamptons for like a more communal, to go work. To go have that and have community. But even if they're connected to a company, even if it's a little bit more outreach, that they still have community within that club or within that group itself.
Exactly. And so like, if you think about it, we've got, as an industry, a tremendous amount of money invested in these physical spaces. And that money is probably not being allocated in the best way right now. Because right now it's being spent for spaces that aren't being utilized at full capacity. And so the question I always sort of ask myself, and it's more rhetorical, is just like, is there a better way to spend that money? Is there a way that we don't abandon the physical space? We always have a physical space, but is it a different type of space? And with the dollars that frees up, those dollars can be reinvested back into things that actually can grow your business and can enhance the community. The question I would sort of ask of agents is, if it cost X for an office, and we took that office and we made it 30% smaller, and we saved Y, how would you want those dollars reinvested?
Yeah.
My guess is most wouldn't say back into more space.
Yeah.
My guess is most would say, I want more from technology, more from marketing, more from programs and services and support. And I think that is an opportunity that we have for our whole industry. So.
Yeah.
Well, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to sit with us. Yeah, this was great.
This is amazing. We could speak all day.
Yeah.
We'll cut this
We know
off.
you're busy, so thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is awesome. Thank you guys.